Hey guys, here I remember Daredevil season 2, episode 10, The Man in the Box, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode, especially after the last episode and everything that happened there. I didn't really know how this episode was going to play out, and once again, another amazing episode. This one might be tied with episode 4 for the best episode of the season. Literally every scene in this episode was a standout, honestly. Almost every scene, I think, was a standout. There wasn't a scene that was bad. I loved every scene in this episode. Every scene is just building and building. You can tell we're getting closer and closer to the finale. I have 3 episodes left after this, and I can't believe that. But let's just get into this episode. There's so much to get into in this episode, as usual. There's a lot to get into, and some crazy shit happened here. So let's just get into it. And I love the way this episode starts because we started the police coming to rescue the kids who are having their blood drained, and they don't know what's going on, but obviously this is, there are kids having their blood drained. This is obviously illegal and everything, and I like the way that Matt handled this. Basically, Daredevil tells Brett that he didn't see anyone in there, but start looking at, basically telling him that he didn't see anyone in there. He doesn't know who is doing this or anything, and he tells him to start looking at the Yakuza and everything, and also tells him to seek out a friend. And I forgot that Brett knew that, that Matt was Daredevil, but I guess he did, because he goes right to Claire, and he says, I know that you're friends with Daredevil, with Matt and everything, and I don't know if Brett knew, but I guess he knew, but basically at the hospital, we see Brett tells Claire we see Claire again this episode, which it was great to see Claire. I knew we weren't just going to see her one time. We saw her twice last season, and I think we're going to see her twice again this season. I don't think we're going to go past 2 episodes, but we'll have to see what happens. He tells Claire to keep these patients. Well, we actually saw her. We saw her, I think, like 3 times last season, I believe. I don't remember, but I think we saw her at least a good portion of last season. But he tells Claire to keep these new patients quiet at the request of their mutual friend, and of course she knows right away who he's talking about. He's talking about Matt, who of course we knew that she didn't want to see. She didn't want to see who this was, and right away she can tell. I mean, this is a very dangerous situation. Their prints have been burned off, and it's really crazy the way that that's turning out. But Matt surprised Claire to explain why he brought the kids here, and that Nobu, who he saw die, was the one responsible for 5 new patients with a high fever, which he just lied to Brett. He said to Brett straight out, I don't know who did this, and yet he did know, and their fingerprints burned off, and basically after asking how he's feeling, Matt overhears the Punisher and basically after asking how he's feeling, it's a very awkward conversation, because like I said before, Claire does not really want to see him right now, but after asking how he's feeling, Matt overhears the Punisher has just escaped from prison, and he's freaking out, because this is his worst fear come true, that Frank is out there. He doesn't know why he's back, but he knows that he's escaped, and he thought that he could get away from this, and obviously he knew, I think he knew that Frank Castle would come back to haunt him, and that this wasn't the end of it, but him coming back is the worst possible thing to happen, because now he has to be reminded of, why he went to prison and everything, and he doesn't want to do this, and for all he knows, the Punisher could be coming after him, so he's really worried about what could happen there. And Matt, Foggy, and Karen then summoned to see District Attorney Reyes, we see, because Foggy thinks she wants to blame them for his escape, and that they're the reason that's going on there. But basically, we see Karen, Matt, and Foggy, they have all been summoned by Reyes, and what I liked about this episode is they actually humanized Reyes. Like, I think we've humanized her before, but this episode really showed us why Reyes did what she did, because Reyes has been portrayed kind of as the villain in this situation. Obviously, I think that, like I said, the villain this season is everyone's personal demons, but Reyes has really been portrayed as the villain here, and I like the way they kind of showed that she does have some compassion in her. Basically, Foggy thinks that she wants to blame for her his escape, and Matt thinks Wilson is right away. He thinks Wilson's behind Frank's release, which is very smart because obviously he finds out that they were both in cell block D together, and knowing that Wilson's there, knowing how powerful he is, he would probably be the one to get Frank released. And of course, Matt doesn't know what went down, but he knows that Wilson's still out there, and that's the thing I think that worries Matt the most. Knowing that Wilson's out there, the man that he couldn't take down, the man that was arrested, that he didn't kill, he has to see again in this episode. And it definitely is a situation that Matt didn't want to have to come up, but it has come up, and that's kind of the thing that scares Matt, and you definitely see it in this episode, and I definitely really like seeing that. Like I said, the one thing that Matt doesn't want to happen. And when meeting with Reyes and Assistant DA Tower, who we do see Tower again, we haven't really seen Tower in a while. Tower is marked as a series regular, and I have no idea why. We've seen him literally a few times. He hasn't really done anything that monumental. If anything, I think Reyes should have been a series regular. Reyes tells him that she found Frank's x-ray from his bullet wound in her daughter's backpack. She admits her mistakes, and that's what happened, that it was in her daughter's backpack, and she was really worried. She led the sting operation with the undercover cop, then infiltrated one of the three gangs involved in the meeting set up by Blacksmith, and she didn't clear the area, and after coming clean, basically she didn't clear the area, and that's how this all happened, that she basically, thought that Frank was responsible for all this stuff, and she didn't realize that it was actually set up by the Blacksmith and everything, and that she was the one that led the operation, and I like that she admitted that she was wrong, because we've seen Reyes really hot on Frank's trail, not really thinking that she's wrong, thinking that she's always going to win, and I like that finally she admitted what she did wrong. But the reason they did that is because of the fact that before anyone can decide to happen, we see that there are all these gunshots just come firing into the building behind and kills Reyes, and Foggy also takes one in the shoulder, so Reyes is now dead, and I like the way they handled this, because this made us feel bad for Reyes. Like, if a couple episodes ago, I wouldn't have given a shit if Reyes died. I really wouldn't. I'd be like, alright, she's dead, great, now they don't have to deal with her. Now it's kind of like they could have maybe used her. They could have done more with her, and now that she died at the worst possible time. And they don't know who shot her. They're thinking it might be Frank, but there's also a possibility that it's not. I knew for a fact that this would not be Frank, because Frank did not go to kill Reyes. He left to kill Blacksmith, so I knew straight out that it would not be Frank, and I like that the episode, we really didn't know who it was. We think it's Frank, but it's not Frank, we eventually find out, which I'll get into. So Foggy also takes one on the shoulder. He is badly hurt, and we don't see him for the rest of the episode until the end of the episode, but we know he's badly hurt, and I thought this was a good scene because it shows how dangerous things are, and Matt then goes to confront Wilson in jail, basically, because he knew that he had something to do with Frank's release. He didn't know what capacity, but he knew that there was something going on there, and I thought Matt played this really, really well. I definitely enjoyed this, and he tells Foggy he's going to go find Frank. Foggy blows him off. He then tells Karen to watch her back, and Karen's really thinking that this could be, that she doesn't think it's Frank. She doesn't think it's Frank. She wants to know that there's more going on there, and Foggy's kind of telling her to stay out of it, that, this is a bad situation. Reyes was just killed, that she's probably just leave it alone, but she really wants to do something. That she's really determined, and I like seeing Karen not letting anything stop her, and that was a great thing that they've done this season, and we see that again here. So Matt goes to see Wilson to find out why he set Frank free, and at first Wilson's playing dumb. He's playing dumb, and he's not admitting anything, and this really angers Matt, to the point where Matt just goes off on him, and I love the way that this scene was done. The way that Matt, the thing I love of this, that this was a conversation. This was a conversation, but you can feel the tension brewing within Wilson, because basically, he's not admitting anything, really. Wilson's saying, oh, I had nothing to do with this, I didn't even know that Frank was there or anything. He's not really saying that Frank was, had anything to do with this. He didn't think that, he's kind of just playing dumb here, and that is when Matt just goes off. He says, look, I am not just going to sit here until you tell me what's going on. Either you tell me what's going on, or I'm going to have your wife revoked so that she can never be with Wilson in New York, which obviously is Wilson's biggest fear, and you can just see the anger brewing up inside of him. It's such a good scene. I love the way this is done, and he says he's going to guarantee that his wife Vanessa never sets foot in the U.S. Not only is she not going to see him in New York, but he's going to guarantee she never visits him in the U.S. again, and this is when Wilson just flips out. He snaps out of his cuffs. He slams Matt's body against the metal table twice, grabs him by the neck, so he's going to kill him, and Foggy for putting him inside a box, and just the way this was done was incredible, because you remember how powerful Wilson is, but he hasn't had that moment this season. He's been kind of reserved, like he's been waiting to finally let his anger out, and this is the scene where he gets to. This is the man that put him in jail. It's the one person that Wilson did not want to see at all. He does not want anything to do with Matt. He did not plan on seeing him, and just seeing Matt again, it's the one thing, like I said, that Wilson did not want, and just seeing, again, we're reminded of the power that Wilson has against Matt, because even though Matt is so powerful, and he's really good at talking him through things, and he's genuinely, I think, not terrifying Wilson, but he definitely is bringing up the one thing that Wilson is the most upset about, that Vanessa's been taking from him, and hearing that, Vanessa's never going to come back and everything, he is not just scared, he is enraged about this, and he finally goes off, and the way that was done, I just loved. Vincent D'Onofrio is still killing it, and it showed that they're not trying to change him, and that's something I was worried about when they showed Wilson. I'm like, is this really going to do anything? Is this just going to be Wilson Fisk is back, and he's not really going to do anything monumental? But no, we had that amazing scene, and honestly, instant nomination. I really hope Vincent D'Onofrio finally gets the nomination, because he wasn't nominated last year. He should have been, but he wasn't, and he, I hope, gets nominated again. And again, it reminds us how much we care about Wilson. Like I said again, I mean, Wilson's a character that I do sympathize with a little bit. I mean, he really loved Vanessa, even though he kills for a reason, and I love the way that was done. And he was literally ready to beat Matt to a pulp, but he didn't, and I love the way that was handled. Amazing stuff there. And after the shootout in Rhea's office, Karen and Ellison track down Tepper because that's where the Punisher would be headed, but they're too late, and the medical examiner who altered the medical reports of his dead family was gunned down, so they can't really do anything. They know that all these people are getting killed, and Ellison is sure that it's Frank, but Karen isn't so sure that it's Frank, because Frank doesn't seem like someone that would do this. He had this humanity in him. He has reasons for killing. He's not just going to kill for no reason. That's not what it is. He's not just going to do that. So, basically, they decide to go see the mortician again, and they don't know if he's there. And then we see Elektra again this episode, surprising, which I thought was interesting that we saw Elektra, because I didn't think we'd see Elektra again. I knew we'd see her again, but not this early. We see Elektra for the first time since Matt told her goodbye after she killed a member of the Hand who sent an arrow through her chest, and she's waiting to travel somewhere. As she sips her tequila, when this mysterious guy just approaches her, and we don't know who this is, why he's there, what the reason is for him being there, but he approaches her, and he buys her the bottle while she's flirting with her, and I could tell right away that this guy is not good news. I knew that was going to happen. I knew that some bad was going to happen here. He's definitely not trying to flirt with her. He has another agenda. What it was, I didn't know, but I knew that this guy was bad news. And Elektra, the man who said his name, was Jacques Fight, and he's the owner of a pair of sais who uses to attack her. And well versed in the double sai, she counters and uses one to stab him in the back, the other in the chest. Before she finishes him off, she finds that it wasn't the Hand who sent him, but Stick was actually the one that sent him. And now it seems like she's going to go after Stick, which is interesting because we knew that Stick was working with Elektra, but then he sent him to go after Elektra. Maybe, I think, to get through to her, because if you remember, he thought that Elektra wasn't as strong as he thought she was, and he wanted to send more of the team. Remember, Stick said, let's get the band back together. Is that who Stick was talking about? Was this a man sent to kind of make Elektra realize the reality of the situation and realize what's going on and maybe stop playing around? Because I kind of feel like that's what it's about. Because remember, Stick wanted her to get involved, and she wasn't as strong as he thought that she was, and that's why he said, we gotta get the team back together. So is that what's going on? I mean, that's the one part that I don't really know what to think about, because I think that's very interesting. We'll have to see where that goes. But basically, she says rude to keep, and basically she beat him up and everything, and Karen and the editor then find the mortician dead. And again, Frank is presumed to be the perp, and more Karen isn't buying it. It's too sloppy for Frank, because it just doesn't seem like something Frank would do. Frank would be very organized. Frank has reasons for killing, and he will make sure the person he wants killed gets killed. He's not just going to kill for no reason. And she goes to get a list of potential targets, and the editor sends cops with her, not wanting to lose her like he lost Ben, because if you remember, the last time this happened is that he ended up losing Ben, and he doesn't want that to happen. Karen is someone that he needs, and he can't just lose her, and I love the way that was done. I like that he tried to keep Karen by his side. Definitely really good there. And we see Stan Gibson is then with his son Daniel, who's coherent after being rescued from the farm, but he has this sinister look when we leave them, and that's very important for the end of this episode, which is one of the creepiest things I've seen. We'll get into that. And then we get to one of my favorite scenes that we've had in the entire show. I mean, this scene was just so great. Not only was this Matt's breaking point and the point where we realize who Matt really is, but also shows how far Matt's come. And I think every hero has this moment, but I haven't really seen a show emphasize it on the way that Matt has, because Matt and Claire had the chat on the roof after the accountant's son woke up, and this was really when you see that Claire still cares about Matt. Even though she didn't want to see him, she still cares about him. Claire thinks Matt needs to stop pushing his friends away, and Matt basically tells her, I don't want friends. I don't want friends. I don't want to, be a lawyer anymore. I don't want to be Matt Murdock anymore. I just want to be Daredevil, because that's what he thinks he should be. He thinks he deserves it. He thinks he doesn't want to sleep anymore. I mean, just all these things he wants to do. It's crazy, but it's this incredible scene, and Claire gives Matt the lab reports and the blood drain victims. She says he should go home and rest, but he can't. He's struggling with the dead man being alive and well, and I understand what he's talking about. Think of what Matt's gone through. This guy that he thought was dead and that he killed and watched burn alive is somehow alive, and he doesn't understand it. At the same time, Wilson is running the prison that he put them in, and all his friends would be better off without him because he's ruined the case. He's now got Frank in jail. Frank's now got out of jail. Foggy's against him. Karen's against him. Everyone's pretty much against him, and he really feels that everyone would just be better off without him. It's really sad to see, but you have to understand why he wants to do this. He really just wants to be Daredevil because he feels he needs to protect the hospital from Nobu in the hand, and that's his job, that he just needs to be Daredevil full time. And Claire tries to convince him that to visit Foggy and be a decent human being, but he stays on his perch, unwilling to come down from his cross, and it's going to take a while. It really is. I think it's going to take a while for Matt to realize that he needs to see his friends and that he needs friends to help him out. Right now, he doesn't think he needs them, but he's going to need them eventually, and while he doesn't think he needs them now, he's going to need them. She also lets him know the reports of the kids taken from the farm and says they were systematically drained of their blood over several months, used as chemical incubators. Nobu injected toxins in their new bloodstream, and Claire says it reads like a science fiction novel, which is very interesting that we saw that, which is exactly what it felt like. We'll get into that, though. So then we see, so basically we now know what's kind of going on with them, that they're kind of using them as these weapons, and it's very interesting. We'll get into that. Like I said, we'll get into that. So then we get this truly terrifying, but also really great scene that shows that Frank is the guy that we thought he was, because for a while I thought they were going to change Frank's character, that they were going to make him a killer again, and that all the stuff we saw with him and Karen was going to be pointless, but that really shows that's not what's going on, because we see Karen in her place, and the cops are outside staying guard when she hears 2 thuds outside the door, and right away she grabs her gun because she knows that there's a killer on the loose. She knows there's something going on, and she grabs her gun. She points it right at Frank, and a lot of people are wondering, why is she pointing at Frank? Because she wants to be sure that he's not the one that's doing the killing. She thinks he's not, but she needs to hear it from him because she needs to know straight out that he's serious and that he's not doing this. And he's walking through her door, and I love the way the scene was done. And he says straight out that it wasn't him. He puts his hands up, tries to defuse the situation, and, he does seem to have a moral code. Like, he does seem to want to help her and everything, which I like the way this was done. He says that he has reasons for killing, and pretty much everything that Karen said is true, and I love seeing that. I thought that was really great, and, basically we see, it's pretty much proven that he's not the killer because the shooter opens fire on them both. But here's the thing, Frank protects her. He shields her, and you can tell that he really cares about her. He will do anything to not lose Karen. He cares about her, and it's kind of like how Wilson was with Vanessa. The difference is this is not a romantic relationship. It's just Frank really understands Karen, and he really understands what she's gone through. And we still know there's something going on with Karen. It's clear that there's something she's hiding, and we don't really get to that in this episode, but there's clearly something going on with her and her brother, and we don't know what that's about. We'll have to see what's going on there. He protected her, and there's someone out there who's killing people and make it look like Frank, and he doesn't know who that could be, who would just be, who are pretending to be him, because there's clearly a copycat out there, and someone is trying to frame him. And this is one of the most interesting things that we've gotten to in the show. There's been some really interesting stuff with the Punisher, don't get me wrong, but this is one of the interesting things I think that have come up, is someone that is framing Frank. Now, who would do this, I don't know, but there's clearly something framing him, and we'll have to see what happens there. So Claire returns to the hospital to check on the kids and finds a 5 of them standing together, and Stan's dead body, basically the Stan's dead body at their feet, and Stan is now dead. They're zombie-like, and the toxins Nobu and the hand inject to replace their blood is making them kill people, apparently. We get basically what felt like something out of a horror movie. I mean, this was crazy. Claire runs out of the room where the blood-drained zombie creatures are. An army of ninjas are scaling the walls of the hospital where Froggy and Claire's lives are in danger, and they could lose this army of young child killers, and that's how the episode ends. So, crazy stuff, honestly, crazy stuff. I mean, we really got into some crazy shit in this episode. We now know that Matt no longer wants to be Matt Murdock. I mean, obviously he needs to be. That's who he is, and he needs to understand why he signed up to be a lawyer. But right now he's kind of going through this mental state where he's really wondering, am I really doing anything that's good for anyone? Does it really matter if I continue to be this lawyer? Now, I understand Matt's point. Like, he doesn't really want to be a lawyer anymore, but he needs to be. He needs to be out there and help out everyone and be this great lawyer and everything, but he doesn't know if he can do that anymore because of what it's done to him, and I really do feel bad for Matt, but I kind of understand what he's going through at the same time. Sad, definitely very sad what's going on there. What is going to happen with the hand? Because now we know it's all child killers, which is crazy what's going on, and I love this as well because it's something we haven't dealt with before. It's not exactly zombies, but it is very crazy, and I love the way they're handling it. Really crazy overall. The hand is just something they've never dealt with. I can't wait to see how this turns out, and Matt can clearly not do this alone. I mean, he's not going to be able to take on these young child killers by himself. He's going to need Elektra. He's going to need someone like Frank, and I think they're going to end up teaming up. Honestly, I think not Frank, but Elektra and him are definitely going to get back to teaming up at some point. Now, why did Stick send this guy to kill her? I don't think he sent him to kill her. I think he sent her to maybe steer in the right direction, get her to understand, what she needs to do and that she needs to take this seriously because she's not taking it seriously, which she has, but in many ways she's been focused on Matt and she needs to focus more on the situation and, she needs to show that she's more readily to handle this than Stick thinks she is, which is very interesting. But why would Stick just send someone out to kill her? I don't really know. That's very interesting. Who is copying Frank? I think it's the blacksmith. I mean, we don't know who the blacksmith is, but obviously he killed Frank's family. He tried to frame Frank. It would just make sense. Obviously, everyone thinks Frank is this killer. It would make sense why he thinks that, why he tried to frame Frank. So I think the blacksmith is the one that is killing everyone. He's framing Frank clearly, so we'll have to see what's going on there. Is Matt going to see Foggy? I mean, Foggy's in a very bad condition right now, as we know. Foggy's life is in danger. Foggy could die, honestly. I would not be surprised if Foggy ends up dying this season, because that might be the thing that actually gets Matt to realize what's going on. As dark and as sad as that be, I think that might be the only way to get Matt to realize how important his friends are and how he needs to stick by them and how he needs friends in his life, because right now, he doesn't think he needs them. He thinks that right now he needs to be on his own. He needs to just constantly be Daredevil, which as great as that would be and as much as, he wants to do that, he can't just be Daredevil. He needs friends in his life. He needs to understand that. But overall, guys, amazing episode. Absolutely love the way this episode was done. Also with Wilson, what's going to happen with Wilson? We don't really know what's going to happen there. We did see a brief scene with Wilson eating dinner and pondering the split lip that Matt gave him, and decides that possibly maybe his files could stand another examination. But where's that going to go? Is Fist possibly going to get involved with something? We'll have to see. But let me know what you guys saw this episode. Absolutely love this episode as usual. We'll see you guys in the next video, which will be for American Crime Story, People vs. O.J. Simpson. Yes, I'm going to catch up, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.